There are three parts in this presentation. The first part will be a presentation about how to diffuse verbal criticism. The second part will have a role play between me and Tim. He will try to criticize me for something, and I will try to use the techniques I cover in the first portion to handle his criticism and see how he's going to respond to that. The third portion will be I'll have a brief group discussion to share what you have here from the first part, how I apply those techniques, and how do you feel that if these techniques are effective during a situation like that, and what could be done better. Imagine you are sitting on top of an active volcano. You know it's going to explode. You don't know when. You don't know how big the explosion will be. But you do know it's getting hotter and hotter. An angry confrontation is like an active volcano. You forgot my birthday. You don't care about me, don't you? The way you run your business is deplorable. You have no idea what are you talking about. How could you get us into this mess? When was the last time you heard something like this? It's tough to face such verbal criticism, isn't it? It can turn into a negative argument fight, which you'll probably regret later. It could also turn into a positive discussion if you handle it well. I'm going to share a few techniques that you can use in such a situation that will help you solve conflicts like that. First is to listen. When I say listen, I mean really listen. Be quiet at first and process what you're hearing. No weird dropping, no eye rolling up into the head. Just listen. Of the people, when they're in an argument, they not even hear what the other people are saying because they are too busy getting ready to say, what shall I say in response to what that person is saying. So they are not really hearing the message that was being said. So that's why it's important to first calm down and listen to the other person, see what they have to say to you. The second is to repeat what was said and show understanding. No sarcasm, no put downs of what was being said. People need the evidence that you understand them. It's probably natural you think they're wrong. But the least thing you can do is to listen to them and show them that you're understanding. By doing that, you're actually building a rapport. See? By showing your understanding, the relationship between you and the other person is already getting better. Because you feel like you're trying to understand the situation together. Also, it is their point of view. It is their feeling. So they're entitled to whatever they are feeling. And it's your job to just listen and repeat what I've been saying. And if you're not very clear about some of the points that's mentioning, then ask some open questions like, techniques is something a little tricky. You may never think of it. It is to take a break and come back at least 30 minutes later. Why? Because you are facing a people who has very strong feeling about some issues. When people have strong feeling, their emotion is flooded. When people are flooded, has flood emotions, their heart accelerated, their mind race that influence their ability to communicate, to listen. So it's better wait 30 minutes, let the person calm down, and then you come back to start a conversation to try to really solve what was being bothering the person. But do make sure you come back 30 minutes later. Otherwise, the same issue will ask you later again, may even become worse. So all those 3 techniques will help you to respond criticism in a non-defensive way. But do keep the following principles in mind when you're doing it. First is to remain calm. And then is to don't take it personally. It may sound funny, but don't take it personally. The other thing is to show your respect to the other person. And also try to use some non-vocal listening skills, like smiling and have a positive posture. So that will help to make the situation mellow. To build, to prepare for your discussion, say 30 minutes later. So when we think about all these techniques, wouldn't you be better if I wasn't put into this situation in the first place? I would love that too. But unfortunately, conflicts does happen. When it does happen, please follow the steps I just described. To first listen to the person, and then repeat what was said, and show understanding, and also take a break, come back later, to try to really talk it through, to have a real conversation, a communication between you and the other person. So that will conclude the presentation, and now I'm going to have a role play with Tim.
Christina, get in here.
Sure.
You keep messing up these reports. It's going on over and over again. What's the problem? What's the matter? Why are you doing this to me?
Okay. What are the reports you're talking about?
It's the annual reports. The annual reports. Last year was thing, and there was a problem with it. Remember, we had to redo that whole thing. And the other year before that, it was thing. Now it's the 3rd year. I mean, is there something the matter with these things? You can't handle these things? What's going on?
Okay. I understand you have frustration about the reports. Could I get more details about what's wrong with the report, or is that you feel that it takes so much time back and forth that you have to deal with the reports?
Well, the real problem is the numbers. The numbers you keep putting in are just the wrong numbers. You're pulling them off the wrong report. We talked about it before. You just keep transpose the wrong numbers. I get the thing. The numbers make no sense. I've got to go back to the other report myself, transpose it over, and then I see that they're just taking the wrong thing. It just keeps happening. What's the matter?
So when you say the numbers, in which particular session of the reports that you were talking about?
Well, if you remember last time,
Okay.
that report we spent 2 hours for fixing, that was the report I'm talking about. You remember that report? We were here till like 8. Supposed to leave at 5. You know. Okay.
Okay.
That report.
Okay. So the report you just mentioned has the same issue with that report?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's happening again. I mean, it's a long time. I know it's a year, but it keeps seeming to happen. The same report, the same time, and it's not crunch time. You know, it's fire drill time. I got to get this report out to my superiors. I've got all the wrong figures. I just want to make sure this will happen next year.
So okay. So when you say you have the wrong figures, so is that something I can check against?
It's something we spent. What was it now? 3 hours checking last time. worked on
Okay.
last year. Remember that?
Yes, I remember.
Okay.
Okay. I believe the reports I'm putting to check against is something I believe that was just come out last week. But if you're checking some different reports, maybe we can sit down together sometime and look at them together to make sure that it's done right.
Okay. Do you have any questions about the procedure? Is there anything that you're having a problem with, or anything about why you keep pulling it from the wrong report? I mean, why don't you understand which the right report is?
Okay.
We've talked it several times.
I think there's some misunderstanding where the really good report number we should be using. I think that should be something that we can probably sit down sometime and try to
Okay.
figure it out.
Okay. That's fine. So, would next Tuesday work?
Yes, that would be great. Yeah, let's
Okay.
do that.
Let's schedule something next Tuesday. Talk about this. We really have to get this done. It's creating a real problem. We got to get it solved. But I do understand, what your situation is, what the confusion is. So go back, review your notes from last time we talked about. Go over there, see anything you don't know about it, explain it to me, and we'll talk about it on Tuesday.
Okay, yeah, I understand your frustration, and let's work together to get this report right.
Okay, appreciate that.
Okay.
See you later. All right, bye-bye.
Okay, so I want to have a brief discussion. So how do you feel about the techniques I described and how this conversation went?
I saw you rolling your eyes.
Oh,
And also, I gotta say, if I was your boss, I would not be satisfied because it seems like it really was your fault and there was no apology.
Okay, but I do feel that I'm not sure I'm really wrong, so I admit
It's the third year, come on!
maybe the boss is looking at the wrong number.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, I think I'll keep that in mind. I will. Okay.
I thought you were very solution oriented, and that's what matters to me in business. Rather than griping over things, just results and solution oriented. I thought you did a great job with that. Where you were like, okay, there's a problem. Let's work together to create a solution and move forward.
Yes.
Yes, well, I do like the role playing. I think that it's almost close to real life. But here's what real life is a personal attack. And I don't think
Yes.
you addressed that. There was no person. In any conflict, there's always you as a personal attack. Then there's the problem. So I didn't see that as an address, or a way that you addressed that. Of course, it didn't come up in this, but as one of the steps that wasn't mentioned, or at least I didn't hear.
Yeah, I think the one thing about personal is that you try to make it not personal, right? You try to make it about the issue, but not as a sort of attack of your personal. Say you're a bad person, but it's more that you made a mistake, but you're not a bad person. Yeah. So you feel that message was not clearly conveyed.
Well, not in the instructions and not in the example, and that always comes out. It's always a personal attack first, because there's an underlying issue.
Like you always done something wrong.
But isn't that contingent on the company? Like if this is an employment type environment, like I work for L'Oreal, and if they did like a personal attack versus a performance related attack, then that would really be more reflective of my boss than it is of me, So I think it depends, because that's part of their training with L'Oreal is that would be considered inappropriate, So I don't know if it's contingent on the work environment. Just a thought.
But it is true that usually when people get mad, they will attack personally. So that's great. Your company actually has this training program to make sure it doesn't happen. So that make the working environment more pleasant, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
A good example is the presidential debates.
It
There were personal attacks. It's like, let's get to the issue. No, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm rolling there too.
That is true.
Yeah, that was a tough one, right? Our president candidates are debating. Okay,
Fabulous. So, Christina, I really enjoyed your speech. I thought it was fun. I really thought it was great. You were really engaging. A couple of things on the positive, the strengths. I thought you really laid out the foundation for the speech and said it was 3 parts, and I really liked that because I knew what to expect and to anticipate. I thought you were very engaging, and I love the analogy with the volcano. I really like that. You seemed very comfortable with the material, as if I definitely felt that you prepared. I liked the voice fluctuation. I thought that was great. Proper emphasis on certain things. Once again, personable, and I love the role playing. I thought it was very creative. Areas of growth potential. Maybe a little bit more is, and I'm more reflective on this based on the feedback I got. I thought focused eye contact, even though I thought your eye contact was great. I think there's always opportunities there. Also, I do believe in repetition. Part of my background's marketing, so repeat. And I think the 3 things, as far as solutions, I thought that those could probably have been repeated more, so that was very clear, as far as here are the 3 solutions for me. But overall, I thought you did a phenomenal job. Thank you.
Christina, there were a lot of things that I liked about your speech. The quality of your voice was very pleasant and expressive. There was an excellent pairing of pacing. I'm sorry, there was excellent pacing of your words and your sentences. You accentuated words very nicely, and the facial expressions that you use matched the content of your speech. The hand gestures you used were very relaxed, and I liked the way you moved sort of around the front of the table a little bit, kind of turning your body to different parts of the audience. I thought that was nice. And your speech seemed very well organized, and I liked the different sections. I was a little put off by how strong Tim was in his criticism.
As you were up there, I thought, oh, here's material that you could use going into a future where you could teach other people to diffuse conflict, because that's going to continue on and on, infinitum. The thing that I would have liked to have seen is, as you asked us for feedback, it occurred to me that you could also use those same techniques for the feedback, so that you would listen and rephrase what I said, because in a way I was attacking you, explaining the attack, and then you could have just diffused and used the examples. So I think going forward, if you do have this in a seminar session, you can do the same thing. So you think that this is like this, and then you get acknowledgement, and then you diffuse whoever's asking the question, no matter how calm or how excited it might be, like Tim, there's always going to be people that have contradictory opinions. So, but thank you.
I enjoyed this. One of the things I liked was I thought you had very good vocal variety. You got angry, you stayed calm, you had different voices. One of the things I really liked was Tim was hammering you, and you were staying calm, far calmer than I think a real person would have been. But that was impressive. To add to what Rocky said, I think that it could have been effective when you were asking feedback. If you said, if you remember the 3 techniques I told you that I would use, who can remember the first one and give an example of that? Who can remember the second one? So that's a way that you could reinforce the things you were trying to teach us and also help us with giving you feedback. I also liked your suggestion that this situation is 2 people trying to understand the story together. You're trying to get them to understand, you're trying to understand why they're angry, and you're trying to get them to understand what you will do to fix this, or what really happened. I did notice, as I mentioned, that there was some eye rolling, and that I also have to say, as a boss, if this was the 3rd year you messed up, I would be pretty mad too, and I would want more of an apology or some sort of an explanation from you. Plus, I also would have liked to hear how you are really going to fix this problem. If I went over it with you last year, obviously you didn't take very good notes, did you? So perhaps you should say, I will take notes and we'll review this, something like that. I wanted to see more genuine repentance. Also, you did have some grammatical errors, which I had listed separately just for you. Your English is generally very, very easy to understand. One thing I noticed that you do is you tend to put an S on singular things, like you said, conflicts does happen, or all reports. So that's just something you might want to look out for.
I like that subject. It's something that we can use in everyday life. When I was studying that, we call it compassionate communication. And we tell the person, when you said that like that, it made me feel a certain way. Well, I like how you emphasize the importance of listening. But then you said non-vocal listening. That's what listening is, isn't it? So I was thinking it was a different type of category. You call it non-vocal listening.
Means that you said, so what are the listening skills that you should repeat what people said? And that make them feel that you're listening. Non-vocal listening, vocal, actually non-vocal listening means you have that you smile and then you lean forward, have a positive a body language.
You don't say anything.
You don't say anything, yeah. Because that make people feel like you're not against them, right? You're sort of in the same side as the people you're living with.
Well, you definitely gave a great example of being calm. I didn't see you rolling your eyes. I thought you were very calm, you know, because your boss was going off, you know. As the kids would say, he was going off on you. But anyway, you explained what happened. It seemed like it was legitimate, so he, you know.
The volcano, good metaphor, doesn't apply. There's no volcanoes in the Midwest, but here's a better one. If you could take a local or more recent catastrophe, like think Northeast, that would really apply. And then that would sink in, you know, like a storm coming in, Superstorm Sandy.
Like Sandy.
That really would hit home.
Christina, one thing that was really great, 2 words, which are wonderful, were imagine. Imagine's a magical word. The moment you say imagine, we have to, we're forced to picture things in our head. And the next thing was word share, as opposed to tell. Many people say, I want to tell you things, or I don't want to listen. But you say, I want to share. I say, oh, great. That encourages people. Very organized, had a little bit of a tease. Imagine you're sitting on top of a volcano, and you sort of know where you're going there. But it was interesting. It teased us, it got us interested, and kind of pulled us in. Thoughts for development. You didn't do this all the way through, but at the beginning you started with what I call a pivot, where you're standing, you're completely not facing the audience, you're looking off, and then you quickly corrected and started looking at the audience. A great way to make those sort of things, just look at one person and say, you know, something like, I'm really angry with you, or really upset at you, or why did you do that? And just choose different people around the room and say it directly to them. That'll get the impression, that'll get the, and then they'll sort of think, how do you feel when that sort of thing happens? Recap each point. We only got one chance. You can't reread a speech. You can't reread a speech. So recap it. So here's the first step. If you do the first step of X, then you get to the next step. And then you go to the, okay, after the first step is the next step, then comes the third step. So people get that sense of progression all the way through. And to help with that, think about creating a foundational phrase. Some phrase that sticks to the mind. So you can say, you know, the first step is to listen, which is great, one word. You know, the next step is to open, or the next step is whatever, what you're going to call it. And then each step will have a one-word thing that people can quickly get. And as you go through the discussion, repeat that one word. So you listen. When you're listening, then you listen. Remember, when you're listening, keep putting the word. So at the end of it, they've got that word nailed in their skull. They couldn't forget if they tried. And so when you get through the thing, you've got all 3 things. So when you start doing it up there, you say, what was the first one I did? And no one will say, well, listen. What's the next thing? That's another thing you do too, is call the audience out. So what's that first step? Get them to say it. Just ways, because you only get one chance to get it in people's heads. And small point, but for some reason you had your right hand up. You'll see that on the video, on the top. Pretty much all the way through the whole thing, it's like this. So think about your hands down on your side. Parade rest position.
Thank you, Madam Postmaster, Christina, and the rest of the members. I thought your speech was very organized. From the beginning, you knew exactly what you were going to talk about. The title is very clear. Diffusing verbal criticism. So I didn't even have to dig deeper to find what is the topic is all about. But you were very organized in saying, telling us how do you diffuse verbal criticism. Number one, by presentation. I'm sorry if I take that back. In the beginning, you were giving us your organization of your speech. So you said, number one, I'm going to give presentation. Number two, role play. And number three is audience feedback. So that was very good. I liked a lot the way you listed, you were just listing possible verbal criticism that, or difficult situation that each one of us might face. And I wrote one of them that you have forgotten my birthday and so on. So you just listed about probably 5, 6, 7 of them. I didn't write it. And then at the end of the last one, you just said, have you been in one of those situations? So that was very well placed introduction to what you want to say next. And then you gave us the techniques. One is listen, number two, repeat, number three, take a break, and so that was very organized. And while I was writing number one, then you kept talking and talking. I said, did I miss number two? And then no, you came back, said number two, and then number three. So that was very easy organizational speech to listen to. So very good speech, very dynamic, it was very interesting for us to listen. But I have two rooms for improvement. The first one is, and I think it diminished toward the third part, what I wrote earlier, that why you don't try to involve the audience in the presentation part, because you were presenting and there were some rooms for just throwing one question. Have you been, can you tell, so whatever, your experience, to just throw one or two questions in the presentation part, which probably took about 4 to 5 minutes. And the other suggestion I have is, I don't know how it's going to work, but I'm going to suggest it. How about you, I would call it freeze Tim. Tim or your partner was standing here and criticizing you, and then you were very eloquent in trying to dig deeper on using one of those 3 methods, and you did, you smiled, you asked questions. But how about you just freeze Tim, and you could just choose any method, just put a button and your partner is just supposed to freeze, stop, don't do anything. Then you turn to the audience, maybe you can freeze him either before you respond to his criticism or after, it's up to you, or one of the two. So he criticizes you, you respond to him, you freeze him, and then you turn to the audience and you say, I have just used number 1, and see if they have any comment, something like that. So you could maybe interpret mix the third part, which is audience participation, into the second part. Try that.